I'm Tammi Wallace, and I am an outboss.
Hello, Out Entrepreneurs. Rhodes Perry here, and welcome to episode number 38 of The Out Entrepreneur, a weekly podcast where I get to interview today's most inspiring LGBTQ bosses crushing it in business. So on today's show, we are recording live from Las Vegas, Nevada, and it is super hot. It is for the National Gay and Lesbian Chamber of Commerce's, 15th annual conference? Yeah. And so 2017, here we are. I have Tammi Wallace here with us, all the way from Houston, Texas. So how hot does this compare to Houston? Or are we kind of in the ballpark range there?
Pretty much in the ballpark range, except Houston has a lot of humidity. So this dry heat, woo.
Yeah. It's kind of like a sauna, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So, I asked this of all of the out bosses. So Tammi, are you ready to inspire fellow out entrepreneurs?
I am ready.
Excellent.
Let's do it.
So a little bit about Tammi. Tammi is the founder and principal consultant of EnFocus Strategies. She is widely recognized as a strategist and thought partner. And EnFocus Strategies offers high-quality, customized LGBTQ diversity and inclusion training and consulting. And the firm supports organizations that desire to differentiate themselves through an inclusive culture and work environment. I love that. As a fellow D&I practitioner, we are good company, so I know that we're going to have an awesome conversation. And also, Tammi is the co-founder and co-chair of the Houston LGBT Chamber of Commerce. So definitely, we'll probably talk a little bit about that as well. So to kick us off, Tammi, tell us a little bit more about EnFocus Strategies and what makes it unique.
Sure. Well, first of all, let me say thank you so much for the opportunity to participate on the podcast today, and it's great to meet you in person. So EnFocus Strategies, what makes it unique is we're offering local solutions for companies. Houston is the third largest. Now, Chicago might argue about that, but we are clearly almost the third largest city in the country. So we think there's a unique opportunity to bring high-quality D&I work focused on the LGBTQ community, engaging ERG groups to have impact with their planning in terms of what they're doing and how they're engaging the community, or coming in and bringing top-quality training.
Yeah, and that's absolutely needed for folks that are really engaged with some of the policy and the advocacy side. We know that Houston was a battleground a couple of years ago around the ordinance, and trans people were once again in the crosshairs. So
once again.
Yeah. And so I definitely think that for the city, for a lot of people that were on the right side of history, all of the work that you're doing, people are hungry for it. And I think especially, we'll have a question later on about the current political climate. But I definitely know from similar work that I'm doing in the Pacific Northwest, it's a good time to be in business. So with all of that, politics, culture, right now at EnFocus, what has you most inspired? Like, what is that next thing that really lights you up when you wake up in the morning?
What really lights me up, and I'm so energized about this work, is our opportunity to truly make a difference. If we can come into organizations and help educate employees, they learn a little bit more about the LGBTQ community, about their coworkers. What I love about that, though, is planting that seed, and beyond that, they take that home. Maybe they have an LGBTQ child or a sister or a brother, and all of a sudden they hug that person a little bit more. They understand that person a little bit more. That's a powerful experience, and I love the fact that we can be part of helping to plant that seed and take it beyond the workplace.
Yeah, it's very heart-centered work, and when you see people have that light bulb moment, that's success right there, right? And especially when people are just so motivated to say, Tammi, you did an awesome job. Here's what we're doing with what we learned. And sometimes people, I would imagine, surprise you, right?
Yes.
In terms of where they take the work.
Yes, absolutely. And I love what you say about heart-centered. Because when I launched EnFocus, that's what I wanted to do, was mission match work.
Yeah. So, that leads to the next question, which is great. Usually people that I interview, they start their businesses for one of two reasons. The first is like you said, it's thinking about a purpose and knowing that you have this idea, you have kind of a plan. Some of us who are more analysis paralysis have great plans, and others are just like, we're going to do it. But regardless, people start because they have that passion. Some other people start because they have been working on someone else's dreams. They've been making someone else really wealthy for a long time and just realize, hey, I'm doing all this work and I feel like I have to compromise part of myself. I feel like I have to conform to a culture that doesn't value who I am. And so, Tammi, I'm curious, which side of the coin resonates more with you?
Well, I think it's a hybrid for me. When I launched my firm in 2012, I had just gotten caught up in a layoff. That was a second in my career. So I'm doing that, what does this mean? What does this look like? But also wanting to do work that truly, what I call, feed my soul.
Yeah.
And having a realization that I could do work that was both a mission match and be abundantly compensated. And also be the visionary, be the one that's creating the vision and actually implementing it. So early in my career, I was very much tactical, if you will, more project management. I'm a great project manager. As my career, as I've matured, I've seen my brain go to that more strategist side. So what I love is this melding of the two, so I can create vision and then really put a plan together to implement it. And that's all in my purview, and that's what I love, and that's what I wanted to do.
Yeah, I love that. I love you were talking about being abundantly compensated.
Yes.
And also having that control over the vision, right? Knowing that, I mean, you had mentioned you're a great project manager. Mm-hmm. Sure, you can work for someone else and be abundantly compensated in different ways, but that vision piece, no matter what, no matter how big you get, as the CEO, as kind of the chief visionary officer, whatever you want to call yourself, you always are going to be seeing that next step, that next thing, and kind of really digging in. And right, that probably lends a lot of excitement and staying committed to sometimes what can be hours and hours every day of doing the work.
It reminds me too, when I was really contemplating whether to launch my own business, I had a good friend I sat down with, and they said, Tammi, here's the deal. A lot of people want to launch a consulting firm and they have a great network. They really have to cultivate their product or service. In the reverse, they have a great product or service, but they have to cultivate a network. Through my work and my career that I've done, I joke I'm a jack of all trades, and I see that now as a valuable asset. They said, you've got both. Go for it. Make it happen.
Yeah.
Gave me the courage to launch.
Yeah. And you did that in 2012, right? 2012. Okay. As you were coming off of this layoff, you're thinking about what's next. You have this vision. You have what it takes. Remembering the culture of where you were at before, and especially because you're doing D&I work, what's maybe one thing that you do, and thinking about people that you contract with, or, if you're at the point where you're hiring people, how do you kind of take what you've experienced in these years of working and being that chief visionary officer of saying, you know what, this is how we're going to be different, and this is how we're going to walk the walk, making sure that the guidance that we're providing our clients, we're doing that as well.
So what I've done through the D&I work, I have brought together some best-in-class trainers, and we're continuing to talk to some others, top-notch people, some that have been doing this work in Houston. And what I'm trying to instill in them, and they're starting to really, really grasp, is we have an opportunity to do this work and get compensated, just like any other specialized training that you see in corporate America today. That we don't have to do work for free. We don't have to do work and undervalue ourselves. I think I see that with the LGBTQ community as a whole. We want to change that. And so if I can instill that in these individuals and help them see themselves as entrepreneurs and understand their value and their worth, that's a win-win.
Yeah, that kind of mentorship that you're providing is really key, I think, especially for younger people that definitely have the abilities to be business owners and just kind of need that extra push. And I think especially as a co-founder of a local chamber, you're definitely walking the walk, right?
Yes.
So I'd like to switch just a little bit and talk more about your LGBT identity and how that kind of shows up in your work. And so if you could take us back to 2012, you're contemplating your next steps, thinking about, being a part of the Rainbow family. Did that influence how you took your next step?
It did. And I think back to 2012, I was, just to get a little vulnerable here, but it was a really difficult decision whether I come out or not. Now, I was out. Clearly, I'd been doing work in the community for a long time, but as a business owner, I started out and I didn't have references on my website. I had two bios, my LGBTQ bio and my other bio. And what I found every time I would work on that the non-LGBTQ bio, I was not bringing my authentic self. There was a gap. I could feel it. I literally felt it sitting at the computer. And it just ate at me a little bit at a time. And there was a point a couple of years ago that switch flipped, and I said, I'm not going to do this anymore. Yeah. I'm not going to do this anymore. It doesn't serve me. It doesn't serve my community, and it doesn't serve what I can do in this world.
Yeah, I think that's really powerful, and I think it speaks to where we're at right now in terms of work. It kind of goes against like Gen X or baby boomers or even traditionalists, where to be professional is a completely separate identity where you have to compartmentalize the personal. Especially being a small business owner, you have the ability to kind of lead from who you are. And that's what attracts people. People like, know, and trust you, right? And exactly. you have to be vulnerable. And so I think, thank you for sharing that. And I hope that for listeners of the show, it's another push to kind of recognize that being out leads to good things. And it can be scary and it's not always safe. Which leads me to my next question, which is thinking back as a business owner. So from 2012 moving forward, even just kind of talking about your bio and, having this less personalized bio and then the bio where it's like, hey, I'm out, I'm part of the Rainbow family. As you were starting to try to build out that pipeline, that business, model, were you ever afraid of being 100% out? Did you ever think, wow, like if I am 100% authentic, am I going to actually lose business? Can you think of an example, and how did you work around that? Because that's something that I definitely know there's certain listeners that really struggle with this component.
Yes, I know I've lost business, but a very specific example. Early when I launched EnFocus Strategies, I was working on a great transformative community revitalization project. There was a church involved, and I was very concerned about bringing my personal life into the work that I was doing. So I was consulting with one of the lead donors for that particular project, but I was always very cautious about saying anything about my wife, about the community, et cetera, with this church involved. That ended up being successful because there were some very progressive partners at the table. Even just last year, I remember I got a call, and it was a message, and I'd like to talk to you about a project we're working on. We've heard you've done some similar work. And even before I had the chance to call them back, they left a second message, and it said, we just realized that you're just not quite the fit we're looking for, so don't worry about calling us back. Now, do I know exactly what that was? No. Do I think what they did was go out and Google me and figure out I'm very involved in LGBTQ? Yes, and it was a faith-based institution. I just looked at that as an opportunity, as the universe saying, here's how I'm helping you figure out the clients that you need to be working with. And the truth is, I want to work with clients that align with my values and clients that I can support even in terms of where their understanding of the LGBTQ community is, that they're open to learning more.
Yeah.
They don't have to be, raising the rainbow flag, but I really want to work with clients that understand and respect me.
Right. I think that's fantastic advice. And it this topic has come up again and again on the show, where you have to forego some of that revenue, or you're like, oh, that would have been a good contract, but that's not my dream client. If I accept that, then I will be opening the door to accepting more of that. And rather than going down that path, you're willing to say no, to walk away, and to let the universe manifest those dream clients that even if you, like you said, you're not raising the rainbow flag, you're at least, they know who you are. They've read your bio. They know what you do. And especially doing the work of LGBT D&I now, that's people are coming to you, and that's a value because you have lived experience. One aspect of kind of the vastness of the rainbow family, but speaking from experience really does give a lot of people confidence.
I wanted to hone in on something you just said, attracting the clients that you want to work with. And I think, I always encourage people that are coming to me to get advice on starting a business, or if they're already running one. It's like, literally on paper, write out who is your ideal client. What does that person or what does that company look like? And put out in the universe that these are the types of clients I want to work with. That also helps you when a client comes to you, especially when maybe revenue is a little short and you're like, oh, well, okay, maybe I could do this. It helps you stay true to what you've said is your authentic client and say no.
Yeah, I think that's great. It's the avatar. So just getting as specific as you can. And I think, if you have had some clients in the past that you really enjoyed working with, start there. If you're just starting out, manifest who you want, people that you really like in your life, and try to attract those people. So definitely really solid advice there. We talked about some of the challenges of being out in business. I also like to flip that and say, thinking about your lived experience of being a part of the Rainbow family, what are some of those lived experiences that you view as assets that help you be a better business owner at EnFocus Strategies?
It's what I call the grit and the persistence piece.
Yeah.
Ever since I was a child and recognized that I was different, I quickly learned to cultivate this grit and persistence about myself, growing into my teenage years and through some of those experiences, and then moving to Houston when I was 17. And then coming out at 25 and having to really connect into that grit and persistence. And I actually had a boss at work who, she would push me. She had seen the ring on my finger and really pushed me to come out. We were just in a conference room. So I always joke, I actually came out at work, but to a senior level manager. So everything else was gravy. Not quite, because then I didn't know how my coworkers were going to accept me. I was very fortunate that at the time the coworkers did. But I know that I've had experiences, some that I directly know of and others that I understand that I got passed over. Those are, those have been challenging times, but they make me the business owner I am today in terms of persistence as I've shifted what EnFocus is doing, the mission match work we want to do for this next phase. I'm really excited that we have an opportunity to do groundbreaking work in Houston, but it's going to take grit. It's going to take persistence. It's going to take commitment. All of that is part of my lived experience.
I love that. Grit and persistence. I don't think you can say that enough. People who are not LGBT but are business owners can definitely identify with that. And for LGBT folks who aren't entrepreneurs, that's a lot of our lives, a lot of our lived experiences, at least with coming out. Even if you come out to the most accepting family or friends, there's still grit and persistence of being okay in your own skin and getting to that point of being out with others. So I really thank you for sharing that. Before we go to a sponsorship break, I wanted to ask you to think about some of the challenges of being out as a business owner and some of those things that really make us effective because of our experiences. What do you want our listeners to hone in on so that they can remember this interview, remember all of your sage advice about just being authentic in their work right now? If they have a side hustle, if they're still an employee somewhere, or if they've just started their own businesses, what should they remember from you around just, Tammi said this, and I want to be more authentic in what I do?
Here's what I would say is, what I've realized, Rhodes, in the last couple of years is that I am owning this LGBTQ entrepreneur part of myself. I had not framed myself. I framed myself as a business owner and a lot of other labels, I guess, identity. I have really begun to embrace this LGBTQ entrepreneur side of myself. I'm excited about that. And part of, we'll talk more about the chamber, but that's helped me realize the power that we have as an LGBTQ entrepreneur community, how we can help one another. You've been tremendously helpful in mentoring me and giving me advice. That's what I'm so excited about. Folks that are contemplating this, step into this amazing world that, to me, is just on the ground level. And where this community is going to go as we continue to support each other, more people step out, bring unique talent and opportunities, that's powerful.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you. So we are going to take a very quick sponsorship break. I want to keep talking, and I know that we're going to keep talking at this conference. But for our listeners, sorry, you're only going to get a few more minutes. So stick around, and when we come back, we're going to learn a little bit more about Tammi and all that her business is doing to make the world just a little bit better. So thanks.
HR and diversity professionals. Are you struggling with engaging LGBTQ talent? Do you stay awake at night worrying about limiting litigation risks? Have you considered seeking support around these concerns, but just aren't sure where to turn? Look no further. Rhodes Perry Consulting offers you solutions with the Engaging LGBTQ Talent A to Z certification. This proven 4-week mentorship program delivers skills, offers support, and connects you with other professionals committed to transforming themselves and their workplaces. Learn more about this cutting-edge program by visiting rhodesperry.com and use the promo code RPC for a 10% discount. Take action and visit rhodesperry.com.
Welcome back, Outbosses. We are now going into our bonus round where we'll get the chance to get to know Tammi just a little bit better, gain some insights on how we can bring our whole selves to work, and then learn one way to stay in touch with Tammi after today's conversation. So, Tammi, are you ready for the quickfire questions?
I'm ready.
All right. So, in one sentence, what does it mean to bring your whole self to work?
It means to bring every part of myself, including my LGBTQ identity, with no hesitation, no exceptions, no holes barred.
I love that. And it starts with your bio. So be out and proud.
That's right.
Yeah, I love that. And what's one personal habit that helps you master yourself and your business?
Focus. I am very, very focused. My wife jokes, like she can come home and wonder, like, what are you doing? Because I don't stop, but focus is key.
Yeah, I love that. There's the phrase, finish one course until successful. EnFocus Strategies, that's your thing, right?
That's right.
I love
that's
that.
Exactly
I love
right.
that. Name one thing that you readily delegate in your business to stay focused on what you're good at.
That's a challenge that I have as a small shop, and that's actually what I'm working on. But I'm proud that I've hired an accountant and a bookkeeper, so I don't worry about doing those things.
Yeah. I love that. That the accounting, bookkeeping, social media, those are all things that always come up on this. And I think like as solopreneurs, small business owners, smaller businesses with like less than 10 people, it can be, especially when you are so skilled and you described yourself as a jack of all trades. So you know that you can do all of that stuff. You can probably do it at a different quality than maybe even if you contracted it out. And at the same time, that's not the vision. That's not you kind of driving the ship. I listen to some entrepreneurial podcasts, and one of the consistent themes, depending on the show, is that when you start out as a solopreneur, knowing the systems, right? Knowing like these details that, it takes up a lot of time right now, but knowing that at one point you are going to delegate it when you have a team, if that's the direction that you're going in. You can look at it this way, especially for people who are listening, who are solopreneurs. Know those systems and think about when you do hire your big team, right?
Yep.
How you explain to those folks like how to do it. Or if you're the Zappos model and you hire really talented people, figure out those talented people, what their skills are, and kind of plug them into those kind of processes that you've mapped out, right?
Exactly. I always ask myself, is this the best use of my time? Can I be out focused on business development, cultivating new clients, or sitting at my desk putting in receipts into QuickBook or reconciling my bank accounts?
Yep.
That's an easy question.
Exactly. Yeah. So is this the best use of our time? And just kind of remember that. Great advice. This is a newer question. Given the current political, cultural environment that we're in and the current presidential administration compared to the previous, how do you view number 45 as being either a threat to LGBTQ businesses or something that is galvanizing the LGBT business community?
I think it's a hybrid threat. I'm concerned about opportunities putting on my chamber hat that I think a different administration would have brought to the table for the LGBTQ entrepreneurial community, particularly for LGBTB certified businesses. Galvanizing, I'm seeing people that are getting involved that have never been involved, that are stepping up. I liken it actually to when the marriage equality fight broke out in 2004, which is what really got me involved in LGBTQ advocacy. People stepped up and stepped in, even when they were completely fearful. But that created conversations that they'd never had before with family members and friends. This is galvanizing us in a different way, and I think we'll look back and say, while it's rough right now, it's going to push us probably 20 years faster, although it doesn't feel like it right now.
Yeah, I hear that. And I definitely, in the work that we're doing, the conversations are happening, whether they're happening skillfully or not, around diversity, equity, and inclusion. And I think in particular with LGBT communities, people are hungry to learn more. As someone who's trans, just kind of seen last week, this is being recorded on August 1st, so I'm just calling July anti-LGBT month. It was a rough month for a lot of us. And, just kind of the response of people in the military to this kind of supposed transgender ban, And then also business communities and allies all around the country, people really showing up for trans people in a way that I've never seen before. So
that's powerful. And, I talked to my 12-and-a-half-year-old niece literally 2 days ago, and she said, what is the president doing with the trans ban? Because she was here, she was in Houston for Pride Month, met a lot of transgender folks for the first time.
Yeah.
So that connection for that 12-and-a-half-year-old,
it's huge.
That wouldn't be happening.
Yeah. So there's the silver lining there. So 2 more questions for you. So thinking about those folks who listen into the show, they're either thinking about, leaving their current jobs, they have a side hustle. What's the advice that you would give to those folks to take that first entrepreneurial leap?
I'm going to tell you what was my guiding principle when I first started EnFocus Strategies, and that was, and still is, that you have to step outside your comfort zone. The comfort zone is safe. It's the known. It's easy, quite frankly. Getting outside of your comfort zone is risky. Mm-hmm. It's scary. There's tons of fear, but it's the place for the most amazing growth, opportunity to learn, to make a difference, and to truly live.
That is where the magic happens.
That is where the magic happens.
And it hurts sometimes. Where like, oh, this is so hard. Lean into that fear, or whatever kind of like catchy phrase you have for that, but just move forward and trust your intuition.
And I wanted to say on that too. I think for LGBTQ entrepreneurs, it's even more of a challenge, right? To move outside of that comfort zone.
Totally.
So when we do, that's very empowering.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you for sharing. So Tammi, thank you so much for being on the show.
It's a pleasure.
Before we go, I know that a lot of folks are really excited about what you're doing. So where can we find you, and what's the best way to get in touch with you?
Absolutely. My website, www.enfocusstrategies.com. That's EnFocus with an E. info@enfocusstrategies.com. Please email me. I would love to hear from you.
Yeah. And we will include that in the show notes. So EnFocus Strategies, info@enfocus.com.
Okay. And on social media as well.
Yes. Awesome. All right. So again, Tammi, thank you for being on the show. And for Outbosses, thank you again for tuning into this week's episode. It is always my privilege to connect with you and so many inspiring outbosses like Tammi. So as a next step, check out the show notes from highlights from today's conversation, subscribe to the podcast, and consider leaving a rating and review in iTunes. And for now, keep being your authentic selves 100% of the time.